Hello and welcome to Auspol Explained. I'm your curly-haired host David, and today's episode is all about explaining how to vote in Tasmanian state elections. As always, this is not about who to vote for, that's entirely up to you to decide. This is just about how to fill in the ballots for the House of Assembly, the Legislative Council, and also why they are different. I personally think that the Tasmanian electoral system is actually very interesting, and it's different to how they do it in other states. So I'm just going to explain a little bit of that as well. For the official source of information and up-to-date information about Tasmanian elections, go to the Tasmanian Electoral Commission website, which is tec.tas.gov.au. Please check out their website if you have any questions that are not answered in this episode or want up-to-date information. Speaking of up-to-date information, how to vote in Tasmania has changed since I last talked about this in 2021. There used to be 25 members of the House of Assembly, now there is 35. So, surprise! This only adjusts a few things, I'll get into it. But first, what is the House of Assembly? It's the lower house, so the party or coalition that gets a majority of seats in that chamber forms government. Most other states would call this the Legislative Assembly, or the House of Representatives if you're the federal parliament, with the exception of South Australia, which also calls it the House of Assembly because South Australia and Tasmania are secretly siblings. Elections for the House of Assembly are a maximum of 4 years apart, but they could be called early. So how do you vote in the House of Assembly? Well, first off, you need to be enrolled to vote, and if you haven't done that already, you can easily fix that by going to aec.gov.au and enrolling to vote, or updating your details if you've moved, changed name, etc. And also a nice little reminder that voting and therefore enrolling to vote is compulsory for state and federal elections in Australia. Secondly, when you go to vote at a polling booth or through postal voting, you will get a ballot. It is going to be pretty large. There'll be a list of names of candidates in a vertical list. There'll be multiple columns grouped by political party, and there could be an ungrouped column. There are 5 different electoral divisions in Tasmania. You can use the Tasmanian Electoral Commission website to look up which one you live in and then research the candidates in advance, which you really should do, 1, because it's useful to know who you're voting for, but 2, Tasmania's system has a little funky twist that means you really should pay attention if you care about who you're voting for. Now the thing is, right, you are voting for 7 people. 7 people will represent your area or division. It used to be only 5, but in 2022 that was expanded. So, Tasmania uses a system called partial preferential voting, meaning that you don't need to fill in all the boxes, but you do need to fill in a minimum of 7. So you'll number the candidates from 1, your most favourite, down to 7. Your 7th favourite. There will quite likely be more boxes. You can fill them all in. You can fill in just 8 if you wish, so long as you do a minimum of 7. Because you are electing multiple people, if you put more than 7 preferences, that means that your ballot can continue to be counted and used for preference flows if not all of your original 7 get elected. But if you don't put more than 7, then your ballot could be exhausted, meaning that your preferences don't get redistributed to anyone else. This is really up to you if you actually want to vote for more than 7 people, or if you don't want your preferences to go to anyone else but that minimum of 7. There's no group voting tickets in Tasmania. Your preferences are exactly as you mark them. But wait, there's more! Plot twist, Tasmania uses a thing called the Robson rotation, named after a man called Neil Robson. The Robson rotation is where you randomize the order of names on each ballot, and that combats donkey voting. This is also used in the ACT. In other states, where a candidate appears in a lower house ballot is randomized and then just printed on all the ballots the same way. But people donkey vote. Donkey voting is a thing where you just mark the preferences in order of the candidates as they appear and just being like, I don't really care, It still counts, by the way. That's still a formal ballot if you fill in the right amount of preferences. And therefore, it could give a small boost of votes to whoever gets the lucky number 1 spot. The Robson rotation means that whoever is first on the ballot keeps getting randomized, and so if people donkey vote, that's just spread out evenly amongst a group of candidates and none of them benefit from it. So while you and your friend voting side by side on a cute democracy day out may have the same list of candidates to vote for because you live in the same area, your ballots will look different because of that randomized order. Tasmania also uses a system called Hare-Clark, which unsurprisingly is named after two dudes whose last names were Hare and Clark. They're very interesting, but I don't want to explain who they were. If you want to know more about them, I'll link the Wikipedia article to who they are in the description. The Hare-Clark system is basically a mathematical way of determining who wins in a proportional representation system, and it's pretty similar to how we work out the Senate. Basically, as there's 7 people per division, each candidate needs to reach a certain quota, a percentage of votes to win. Some candidates can get more than the necessary quota pretty easily, and so the excess preferences for those candidates are redistributed to other candidates at a reduced value. Those with the least amount of votes are then eliminated and preference flows continue to be counted until we have 7 candidates per division. And ta-da! I will link the equation in the description to all those math nerds who care about numbers and stuff. Weirdos. Anyway, let's carry on talking about the mechanics of an electoral system in a state that I don't live in. Part 2. The Legislative Council also exists. There are 2 chambers in the Tasmanian Parliament, and the Legislative Council is known as the Upper House. It's not where government is formed, but all bills must have the agreement of both chambers before they can become a law, so the Legislative Council acts as a chamber of review to further scrutinise and potentially amend bills. It has 15 seats, and each electorate is represented by a single member. This is interesting, to me at least, because that's the opposite of how other states do it. Normally, the upper house is the chamber with multi-member electorates, whereas the lower house is usually the one with single-member electorates. Tasmania did it the other way around, and that's okay because I embrace diversity. It's really important to note that elections for the Legislative Council aren't connected to the House of Assembly. They could hypothetically be on the same date, but they don't need to be and almost always aren't. Elections for the Legislative Council are fixed. They can't be called early, but that doesn't really matter because they're annual. They happen every single year. Elections happen every May. However, the term length for a member of the Legislative Council is 6 years. The way to resolve this is that it's got a rotating partial election. One year they will have 3 seats up for re-election, and then 2 seats the next year, and then 3 the next year after that, etc. And then it cycles through all 15 seats until we reach the start of the hamster wheel of the electoral cycle, and it's been 6 years. So to vote in the Legislative Council, you really do need to go to the Tasmanian Electoral Commission website, which again, tec.tas.gov.au, and find which electorate you live in, because it may be having an election that year. You may have to wait another 5. Got it? It's pretty simple. And so is the ballot for the Legislative Council. So how to vote in the Legislative Council is straightforward. The names of candidates are listed vertically. It is also partial preferential voting, so you don't need to fill in every box, though you can. No one's stopping you from filling in more preferences. If, for example, there are 10 candidates, feel free to fill in only 8 boxes and leave the last 2 blank if you find that they're both equally undesirable and you can't choose which one is worse. Or you just don't want to hurt their feelings because you know them personally and just don't think either of them should be in Parliament. You don't have to fill in all the boxes, just so long as you do fill in a minimum amount, which varies depending on how many candidates there are. If there are more than 3 candidates, which, let's be honest, is quite likely, then you must fill in at least 3 boxes. If there are only 3 candidates, then you must fill in a minimum of 2 boxes. If there are only 2 candidates, well, then you're allowed to fill in only 1 box, but you still have to fill in one box. Again, that's just a minimum. You can still fill in more preferences if you wish to ensure that your preferences are counted if the first 2 or 3 people don't get elected. And there you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and a big thank you to the Tasmanian Electoral Commission staff for helping me make this episode. I had a few things I wanted to clarify, so I shot them an email and got a response really quickly. They're actually incredibly useful. The Tasmanian Electoral Commission is your friend, and I do encourage you to reach out to them if you have any further questions or clarification about how voting works. They won't be able to tell you policies or who to vote for. Again, it's up to you to research and figure out yourself. But I do recommend that you do a little bit of research ahead of time, because looking at the various policy pages of candidates could really help you understand who is going to be representing you and who you'd like that to be. It makes you a lot more confident when you go to fill in your ballot. Enjoy your democracy sausage, have fun voting, and share this with someone else in Tasmania so they understand a bit more about elections and are prepared, because you never know when the next election might come round. It could be called early. See you next time.